All right, everyone. I hope all is well. This is our last recording for this semester. So, welcome to week 7, and congratulations, you've made it this far. And we will this I don't think this is going to take very long either. I know the last week's was like an hour and a half, insane. So this should be a lot quicker. Okay, we're going to talk about military deployment and reintegration. I'll never forget the first time I heard about this. I went to school for my master's in Regent University, graduated in May of 1992, and heavy military town. And we talked a lot about this in school, in part because we were close to military. And I was like, wow. So I always thought, that yay, he or she's back home, and it's just all wonderful and great and no problem and woohoo, and we're excited to have them back. And that is not necessarily the way it goes. Usually there's a honeymoon period, and it can be relatively short, so there is the excitement of yay, you're back home. But what happened while the person was gone is that the family divvied out that person's roles and responsibilities amongst themselves and kept living life. And so there's a whole lot of water has gone under the bridge and that they have no idea about. Some of the systems or processes, procedures, so to speak, that sounds too formal, but some of the things that they did as a family have changed, possibly, depending on how long the person has been gone. And so it really is an adjustment for everybody to come back home and be able to reintegrate into the family. So this really began to be noticed as we sent people off to Iraq. We had Operation Freedom, we had Desert Storm. I don't remember what all the names are, sorry. And so people left in droves, and when they came back, many of them had problems, and we began to look at that and study that and talk about it. A lot of people began to seek counseling over this, and which can be very helpful, obviously, for sure. The military, in and of itself, is a very unique subculture within our culture, and so and it's very different from family. And if someone is newly into the military and then leaves, and they come back, and they have drastically changed in terms of their practices, their expectations of instant obedience, those kinds of things, the power of the hierarchy, all those things are not necessarily as strong at home. And so these are some of the reasons it's difficult for people to reintegrate back home. Let's see. There's also this is almost mind-boggling to me, but not really. I mean, not naively so, but it's just kind of amazing how much of a stigma there is to going to counseling. So people will oftentimes resist going to counseling and not be willing to, not get the help that they need. Now, the flip side of that is a lot of times people are resilient and families are resilient. And so resilience is literally just the ability to bounce back. And so it's like a little bump in the road for some, and they're able to negotiate new roles and communicate and sort through and begin to move forward in a normal fashion. In fact, an awful lot of people are able to do that for sure. The parent who was left behind takes care of absolutely everything. I don't know about in your family, but for most of us, we have there's certain things that I take care of, and there's certain things that my wife takes care of, and that's things that we've negotiated out over the years, argued over, fought and fussed over, and after 31 years of marriage, we're at actually a pretty good place with that. So there's parenting responsibilities, there's bills to pay, there's errands to run, a house to be cleaned, lawn to be mowed, bushes to be trimmed, cars to be fixed, house leak in the roof, leak in the faucet, things to be fixed, things to be done, things to be taken care of. And so whoever's gone, all of that stuff gets put on the family once they leave. So in the reunification process, this role issue and the issue of who does what is oftentimes a huge source of conflict. What was once acceptable may not be acceptable anymore. So everything has to be renegotiated, which can be stressful and can be challenging and can be difficult. I wish we had a two-way conversation, and if anybody's military, they would be able to talk about some of this stuff and give kind of a little testimonial. But just think in your mind, and some of you may be or know someone who has experienced this, or you may have clients that you've worked with or people that you will work with in the future that will be dealing with this. There is potentially a loss of independence for both parties. In the reunification, the person that's come home as well as the person that was left behind. So if you're a husband or a wife and you're at home and your spouse is gone, it's 10 o'clock. I think I'm going to go to 7-Eleven and get a Coke. That's a crazy example, but you just do stuff, right? You don't ask. You don't say, hey, I'm going to be at. You just do whatever, right? I mean, obviously, if you have small children, that's another issue. But there's a lot of things that you just do, and you don't think about letting your spouse know where you are. And that would be true for the person that's off in the military. Now, obviously, they have strict accountability to their leadership. But as far as during their free time, they just kind of do whatever they want to do. So that's part of the reason for the struggle with reunification. Sometimes the family felt abandoned, as irrational as that may sound to you. That's very common and very normal. And if there was unresolved conflict in the relationship, especially talking about husband and wife, but it could be with kids as well, when the person left, then that also intensifies once they come back, especially if it's a kind of a deep, big deal, ugly, kind of long-standing problem. Resilience is something that's very, very interesting to me. There was a textbook that, excuse me, I'm getting over a cold. There was a textbook that told a story about a guy that was buried alive in a box, literally. And when he came out, he was found, and they dug him up, and he was still alive. And I mean, it was, he had to breathe, but he was okay. And he no damage, no physical damage. He was fine. And he was literally fine. In fact, they were like, okay, he's just in shock, and he doesn't know he's messed up. And they followed up on him for like 5 years, and he continued to be fine. And so that is extreme resilience. I don't know about you, but I think that might mess me up if I was buried alive in a box and left to die. And some people have a lot of resistance, and some people don't have a lot of resilience. And that's something that's been deeply studied over the years. But nonetheless, resilience plays a part in terms of how well families, individual resilience, in each individual involved, plays a part into how well they're able to, how smoothly they are able to reintegrate and get back going to normal life. If the person that was off in the military is traumatized, then there may need to be some trauma treatment for. They may have a diagnosis of PTSD and need to be treated for that, and that can obviously wreak havoc in a home potentially if a person comes back and they're really scary or scared or fearful or avoiding certain types of situations. The family's looking at them like, what the heck? So that's something that can be worked through with therapy, and just the relationship itself, the relationships. Oftentimes they'll seek treatment for conflict in the relationship, either, again, like we talked about, past conflict that was never resolved, or conflict that's arisen as them coming back home and trying to renegotiate their changes. Let's see. Okay, that's enough for that. Oh, okay. See, I told you it was going to be short, but we're not quite done yet. Don't get too excited. We do have one more short slide. So these are the last two subjects that we're going to cover, and then we are done. Pardon me. Let me take a swig of water real quick. All right. Now, again, I wish we could, has anybody done a death notification? I have not. Um, I don't know about you, but I do a whole lot of kind of put myself in people's shoes, and I just think, man, I would hate to have to do a death notification. We've probably all seen this on a movie where someone has to go and knock on the door, some military guy or police officer or a chaplain or a pastor or a friend of the family goes and knocks on the door, and sometimes the person starts bawling before the person even says anything. So it's hard on both the person delivering the message as well as the recipient of the message. Probably harder on the recipient of the message, but nonetheless, it is very challenging for people. There's very little training done on this oftentimes. But if it's done poorly, if it's not handled well, it can be damaging, and it can increase the intensity of the pain and grief for the person. So the person needs to speak softly, be gentle, but at the same time be honest and truthful, and lay out what has happened or what they know. They may not know what happened. There needs to be empathy. They need to remain calm. You don't really know how people are going to react, obviously, and you need to be able to kind of accept it, whatever it is. I think I'm getting ahead of myself. I think that's on this next slide. Sorry. So here are some of the elements of an effective death notification. So recognize and know that no two are going to go the same. So if you've done it several times, if you've done it once, then you may be thinking, oh, the next one will go just like that one. It can be very different. It could be some similarities, but they're going to be very different. And that's good to be prepared for, and know that it's one of those situations where you go in and say, I expect anything. I'm not going to be surprised at anything that happens at this point. There is even some suggestion that if it's handled poorly, it may prohibit the person from seeking counseling, which that's like, oh, there's a little heavy responsibility there. It is done in person, and it can be done in pairs. It is recommended that it is done in pairs. That is a moral support issue, and that is could potentially even be a safety issue. Not often, but it could be. There's wisdom in going in pairs to any kind of a difficult situation. Obviously, it can be a combination of all kinds of different people, and oftentimes is police, military, firemen, counselor, family members, whatever. It can be any mix of the above. Needs to happen quickly. The person doesn't need to hear on the news that their loved one is dead. I don't know if you recall, but when you look at some of the, like for example, a school shooting, they will say we have not yet released the names of the deceased, and some of that is, this is the reason right here, right? Because they got to notify the family first. They have to get positive identification of the body. That's could be part of it as well. But you don't want them to hear about it on the news. You want someone to show up in person and tell them first. Obviously, that would be horrible. And it is important to be accurate, and it's okay to say, I don't know. I really don't know. If they're asking you a bunch of questions and I don't know. I'll tell you exactly what I know. I'll tell you everything I know, and beyond that, I really don't know. And hopefully we will know as time goes by, but I don't know. So be honest and be accurate. Speak very plainly, very calmly, very direct. And again, when I say direct, still calm and kind and warm, but definitely you don't want to hem haw and mumble. I mean, it's like, this is what happened. Your person is no longer with us. They have died in this incident, whatever happened. Be compassionate. Warmly accept. I love the way this is worded. I want to say this is out of the textbook. I may have reworded it a little bit, but warmly accept their reaction. So it's important to be able to be warm and gentle with them no matter what they do. And as you can imagine, you can use your imagination and come up with a million different types of reactions that you might get. Follow up with them, ask them if they can, if you can have their phone number, and you already have their name, or you may already have their phone number, but give them your information also, and ask them if they'll let you, let them know on a call, and just call them the next day and say, hey, I just wanted to, this is so and so, and just want to make sure you're doing okay, and is there anything I can do, and let you know I'm praying for you, that kind of thing. And debriefing is important, and that is for the two that delivered the message. So you go back and hopefully you rode together or whatever. You debrief. You literally just talk about how you doing and how did it feel and what do you think, and you just kind of process it. It's very powerful and very helpful for people to do. And a lot of times that doesn't happen in crisis situations. They're supposed to debrief, but it doesn't happen. I don't fully understand why not, but it really needs to. It's very informal, and that's okay. It doesn't have to be like a big meeting. Okay, we're going to debrief, but talk about what happened is really all that is. And certainly there's a lot of detail about what debriefing really is, but in essence, it's just talking about it and processing it. All right, guys. Good luck on the final. It's open book, open note. It is going to be 2 hours, 120 minutes, and it is available as we speak. And God bless, and I hope you do well.